Hello guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another of my videos, and today bringing you guys every single buff and nerf that needs to happen for every sub-ability mode in Shindo Life. Now, a lot of these modes are actually unusable as modes simply because a lot of them don't give you everything that you need. All of them pretty much have something wrong with them that makes them inferior to Djinns or Fates. Now, a lot of the Fates are actually bad, so I will be including Fates on this, but Djinns are not going to be included whatsoever because Djinns are broken in this game and they do not need buffs. I don't think they need nerfs either. The only 10 I'm going to be including, the only Djinn I'm going to be including is actually Tyn Tails because Tyn Tails does need nerfed in my personal opinion. But yeah, guys, let's get right to the video. Hopefully you guys enjoy and hopefully see you next one. Alright, so we're starting off with Divination Spirit. Now, they actually said that we're going to rework this, but they never got around to reworking this whatsoever. All they did was change how it looked, and that's pretty much all they did. Now, in my personal opinion, the 8th mode, the final mode, it needs to have end lag reduced on the ability. Simply because the end lag on this ability is ridiculous to the point where it could literally get you killed because you cannot see. I am clicking right now and I cannot attack. I could not attack up until where I am one there. It's absolutely ridiculous. The end lag on it is just insane. I feel like the stats of this mode fit well with what it is. I'm gonna have to unmode to remode because once you go into the 8th mode, you cannot mode down. Now, all of the other abilities are fine in my personal opinion. I feel like all of them have their pros and cons, but I feel like the main thing of Inner Gate Spirit or Demon Gate Spirit in this game is that you actually teleport with abilities. Now, I actually forget the abilities you teleport with, but I equipped some. I know one of them is Ember entry, so as you guys can see, you would teleport. Instant teleport instead of doing anything else. Also, yes, I have Sun Kills, so you're going to see that throughout the video. Sorry, guys. Oh, and it's Ryuji Access. Ryuji Access and Ember entry will teleport you to them instead of just, like, instead of any delay. It will literally teleport you to them, which is an insane busted ability. But in my opinion, they need to make it so the first, like, I think it's the first 5 specs have this ability where you teleport to them and you knock them up and then you do a bunch of fireballs. I feel like that needs to be added to every single one besides the 8th one, simply because all the other ones are just not very good. I feel like that would make this bloodline better overall. I don't think it has a weapon spec. As you guys can see, I just used the Muay Thai weapon spec, which is very, very good, very nice. And I feel like, as I said before, I feel like the stats of this mode overall match what it needs to do very well. Now, that's all there is going to be for this spirit, so let's go into the next one. Next up is going to be Heavenly Spirit. Now, this one I actually do not have leveled up, so I cannot show you all the stats, but the stats of Heavenly Spirit are fine. They aren't bad, they aren't good, it's just very fine stats. But the Z spec, in my personal opinion, you need to have iframes. While using the Z spec, you can actually be attacked at things like that. I feel like the Z spec of 7 Heavens needs to have iframes or hyper armor or something like that. Something that will guard you from being attacked while using this ability. Because if you actually use this ability in the middle of combat, 9 times out of 10 you will be attacked by someone. So I feel like it just needs to have iframes. That's pretty much all there is to change about this. Everything else about it is very good and good for combos. The next one's going to be Bat Curse Spirit. I actually do not have this mode. As you guys can see, I do not have it equipped. But Bat Curse Spirit is basically the ability spec. It's kind of like Chidori. So I feel like it needs to have less end lag on it. If you add less end lag to the Chidori, it will actually make it a lot better overall because they won't be able to predict when it's going to happen. Or less start up, in other words. Now, I feel like the stats of it also need to be higher. The stats on it are extremely low for what the mode is. Z-spec, I feel like Z-spec modes should have really high stats. I feel like that's what Z-spec mode should do. And C-spec mode should be more for the abilities. But some Z-specs obviously have great abilities, as we'll get on to later. But yeah, for Bat Curse Spirit, raise the stats, less startup on the ability, and it will be good. Now, Cloak Spirit, this one is actually borderline very, very usable. I feel like the HP amount needs to be raised to 2,500. If they raise the HP amount to 2,500, it'll be used. That's literally all there is to change about this. The Z-spec is very usable. It teleports you to them and does about like 60k while you're in mode. Obviously, you're going to be in mode because you're using a mode. But yeah, I feel like this ability overall is extremely, extremely good. And they just need to raise the HP amount. Also, remove the teleporting M1s. You guys can't see that you teleport with the M1s. But here, look. As you guys can see, I just teleported. Remove that, Rel. It actually messes up combos and things like that. I know you guys added it with the intent of it being good, but it actually makes the mode worse because you will miss M1s half times because you literally teleport straight past them without hitting an M1. Now, next present you be Tyn Tails. Tyn Tails I do not have, but Tyn Tails, the auto dodge on the 3rd mode needs to be removed. I do not know why there's an auto dodge in the 3rd mode. That is literally the only change that needs to happen. Remove the auto dodge and the mode will be fine. Like, you can have super overpowered dragon spec, the super overpowered weapon spec. It doesn't matter. Just remove the auto dodge and it'll be fine. That's the only nerf that needs to happen for Tyn Tails, in my personal opinion. I feel like the auto dodge needs to be removed. There's not a real reason why that's ever included. They pretty much just made Tyn Tails, they were pretty much made Kenichi obsolete if you have Tyn Tails, and I do not like that at all. Now, Vapor Inner Spirit, I feel like the stats need to be higher, but I can understand why they don't want to make it higher. But I feel like if you guys can raise the stats, all the stats to 2,400 each, it'd actually be very usable as a mode. Right now, the only reason to never use this mode is simply because of the stats. If you guys raise the stats to 2,400, as I said, it would actually be very usable as a mode because that'll be enough stats to be able to survive one-shot combos and things like that. Also, the Z-Spec is obviously extremely good, as you guys saw. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about it. Now, Finite Strength Spirit is the next one. I do not have Finite Strength Spirit, but the Z-Spec mode is actually extremely broken. It actually can be a one-shot combo if you guys use it correctly. I'll get it in the future to showcase that you guys can actually one-shot with it. But in case you guys do not know what that one-shot is, basically just place lock stun and then use the Z-Spec and it'll do a ton of damage. Now, the stats of this need to be higher, obviously. The stats are one of the lowest stats of every single mode in the entire game. That is unreasonable, in my personal opinion. At least raise the stats of every Z-Spec mode to 2,400 each. I feel like that should be the bare minimum for Z-Spec modes, simply because Z-Spec modes, the only reason you're ever going to be using them is mainly for stats. You're never going to use these for, like, the abilities, because most C-Specs are better than Z-Specs, other than Tyn Tails and Jin's, obviously, because Baron mode's OP. But other than that, yeah, the stats is pretty much all that needs to get increased. Now, next is going to be Demonic Spirit. Demonic Spirit is actually a very good ability overall. If anything, they need to raise the Chi and the HP stats to 2,400, as I said, and maybe raise the Nin stat to 2,600. If they guys do that, this ability, this bloodline would be, not this bloodline, this mode actually might have a chance of being used in actual combat over like Fates and Jins, simply because the stats are actually usable. The Z-Spec is obviously very, very good. It's one of the best Z-Specs in the entire game, simply because it's a long-range stun. It's kind of the same as Vapor Inner Spirit, but I recommend you guys use this mode over Vapor Inner because of the stat increase. But if they actually raise the stats of both of them, they will both be very usable. Now, next position would be Snail Spirit Awaken. Now, this is going to be the first mode that I believe only needs like one small change. A very small stat change, stat increase will be fine. The Z-Spec is perfectly okay. The Z-Spec is very OP if you use it correctly. And overall, this mode is probably one of the most balanced modes in the game. Now, next would be Cobra Spirit Awaken. I do not actually have this leveled up. So if there's a second mode, which I'm pretty sure there is. Let me see real quick. Isn't there a second mode to this? Well, I won't know because I keep leveling up. But yeah, basically the Z-Spec, you ride a snake around, and that's pretty much all there is to Cobra Spirit. I feel like this spirit is fine. If anything, the stats need to be increased, but I'm pretty sure that this actually has a second mode to it because there actually is a level bar. If there is a second mode that gives you more stats, forgive me, guys. But yeah, I believe a stat increase on this mode is pretty much all it needs. It's very good for movement. It's very busted in ability arena. Now, Frog Spirit Awaken is the next one. Now, this is going to be the first mode where I suggest an ability overhaul. The Z-Spec of this is extremely bad. As you guys can see, it's very hard to actually use. It doesn't auto-track or anything like that. If you guys can make it so it's more like all of the other, like, summons, like Snake Summon or things like that, where it automatically tracks towards people, maybe make it as, like, a frog summon, kind of like the Frog Summon ability, but make it as a Z-Spec. It would make the Z-Spec much better. But overall, this mode is very good, simply because it does give you double M1, and the stat increase is actually very good. Now, Puppet Platinum Halloween. This is going to be one of the most unused modes in the entire game. I feel like this mode is actually very underrated. But as you guys can see, the stats are literally god-awful. These are some of the worst stats in the game. Somewhat like Finite Spirit. These stats, I don't really know why they made the stats like this. 1,500 tie, I don't really ever see the reason of making something that low. Raise all of these stats to 2,500. If you raise all of them to 2,500, it'd be very good. Maybe make Nin and Chi 2,600 to offset being the other modes being increased by stats. But yeah, overall this ability is very, very good, but the stats of this mode literally makes it terrible. It's one of the worst modes in the game stat-wise, so yeah, just keep that in mind before you use this. Now, Specialist Spirit, again, one of the most underrated modes of the game. Raise all of these stats to 2,600 each, and then raise the HP stat to 3,000. If you guys do this, this mode will be used almost all of the time over the other modes, because the Z-Spec of it is actually very good. It's very fun to use as well. This is one of the most fun modes in my personal opinion. Oh wait, I just realized you can teleport with Specialist Spirit if you have a fighting spirit. That's OP. That's actually OP. But yeah, raise the stats of this mode. That's all there is to change about it, and that's going to be it for this mode. Now, Ember Fate Spirit. Now, I'm going to be including all the Fate Spirits when I say this. Nerf the second mode of Fates. The second mode of Fates, remove the block break. That's all there is you guys need to do. Just remove the block break on the second mode, and it will be very useful. Now, the first ability of Ember Fate Spirit, the beam needs the block break. In my personal opinion, the beam needs to block break to be any useful in fights, because most of the time when you're using this beam, it has, like, you won't be able to combo with it. So just make it so a block breaks, and overall will be a very good ability. Now, Obelisk Fate Spirit. This is one of the ones that I believe that, I don't even know why this exists in the game, really. But the Z-Spec is one of the worst Z-Specs in the entire game, because it's so predictable to use, because you get launched up in the air. Some people may think of that as a good thing. It's not. Make it so it has less startup time. Make it so you bounce faster. Like, if you made it so people, like, went up and down a lot faster, and you made the range a lot further, like, make them go up higher, but make it a lot faster, and make the range a lot further, this mode spec would actually be extremely usable. Now, Haze Fate Spirit. This is one of the ones that I believe needs to have a double hit. As you guys can see, the balls that go out, each of these balls need to double hit, in my personal opinion. Each of them hit right now once. If you guys made the balls double hit, it would actually be extremely good to use in fights and things like that. And Nimbus Fate Spirit, all you need to do with this one is increase the damage of the Nimbus Fate Spirit ability. You guys nerfed it a long time ago, but the Z-Spec, it doesn't do as much damage as it used to. It does about 75k in mode, and you guys may think that's a lot, but this ability is almost impossible to actually hit unless you have them in a place lock stun. If you guys increase the damage so it does 100k overall, make it do like 33k per tick, and it will actually be very usable in fights. Now, next will be Santa Platinum. Now, with Santa Platinum, you guys need to increase the stats a ton. Santa Platinum needs the stats increased by a lot, simply because the stats on it are terrible, much like Puppet Platinum. Those two modes need the stats increased. Master Frog Spirit is another one I do not have. It's kind of the same thing with the other one. Change the Z-Spec so it's a summon instead of you riding it. If you change it so it's a summon instead of you riding it, it overall will be extremely useful and extremely good to use in fights. Reptile Spirit is another one I do not have. Now, this one is very iffy to balance, because the Z-Spec is actually extremely broken, because it's on a 10-second cooldown, if I'm not mistaken, and actually does like 40k damage, which that's a lot. But if you guys made the slam a little bit faster, much like Obelisk Fate, guys, if you guys don't know what Reptile Spirit does, it's literally just Obelisk Fate Spirit. But if you guys made the slam a lot faster and maybe increase the cooldown to about 15 seconds, and then increase the stats a bit, it overall would be a lot more usable as a mode. Spider Curse Spirit, it's another one I do not have. A Spider Curse Spirit, in my personal opinion, all it needs is a stat increase. None of the modes need change. The abilities are very unique and very useful overall. Akuma Eternal Hand. Now, this one, the stats need increased, in my personal opinion. I don't know why the stats are very low. I know the ability of it's very OP, and it only drains 20 mode a second. So I feel like it's very good to use. If you guys raise the stats by a tiny bit, like raise Chi to 2700, raise Nin to 2600, raise Tai and HP to 2500, and this mode would be one of the single best modes in the entire game. So many more people will use it, so many more people will grind for it, because right now, I see literally 0 people using this. I have never seen someone using this in an actual fight, even though it's very good as a mode. Just raise the stats. That's all there is that you guys need to change. Now, Master Rabbit Spirit's the same as the Toad Spirits. Just make it so the Z-Spec auto-tracks the people. Like, all of these modes are the exact same, besides the fact that you, like, they change a tiny bit. Make it so it's a clone, like a summon, instead of you riding it, and overall be more useful as an ability. And again, it does have the double hits. Now, Captain Jokei, this is going to be the only mode that I do not suggest any change for. If Captain Jokei was buffed whatsoever, it would be one of the most broken modes, if not the most broken mode in the game. Do not buff this. The shield is really good. The Z-Spec is good. The weapon spec is good if you can land it. And overall, Captain Jokei is very useful as a mode. And it's probably one of the best modes in the game. And it's just underrated because of the rarity, so people, like, almost never use this. The shield is ×3 if you guys do not know that. It's almost impossible to ever break the shield. Toad Curse Spirit. Now, this mode, in my personal opinion, it needs to have a higher stat cap, or you need to make it so the stats go up faster. Either of those would make this very usable, because the Z-Spec is actually extremely fun to use. You, like, slam on the ground, stones come out. Either just make it so your stats increase faster every single hit, or make the stat cap a lot higher. Now, Cobra Stretchy Boy mode. Cobra Stretch mode, in my personal opinion, the stats, again, are terrible. I'm pretty sure they use the same exact stats from the Puppet Platinum stuff. But the Z-Spec is extremely good. I love the Z-Spec. And it's literally just the Puppet Platinum Z-Spec, but it's a different skin. I feel like it's a very cool Z-Spec. Just increase the stats along with Puppet Platinum and Santa Platinum, and they will be much more used. Trust me. Divination Spirit. Now, this spirit, in my personal opinion, it has the same exact stats as all the other, like, low stat modes. Make the stats higher. I know you guys did not want this mode to be busted, but right now it's unusable. Increase the stats. Increase Tai the most. I feel like Tai should be like 3000, because it's like you're going Super Saiyan. Why is your ability to punch weaker than your ability to punch when you paint on your face, like with Eternal? Like, come on, man. Also, the Z-Spec of this is extremely hard to hit. Make the Z-Spec, like, make the beam a lot easier to hit. Make the range a lot bigger. Make it massive. But yeah, guys, this could actually be it that's actually be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, like, comment for more. I'll see you next one, guys. Bye-bye.